Innovation in science, technology, R&D has been a core driver of the U.S. economy. This makes the U.S. a preferred destination for Chinese investors seeking financial support, allowing them to upgrade technology and innovative capacity in medicine, hybrid vehicles, energy saving, environmental protection, safety, and digital manufacturing. Our panelists this afternoon will share their experiences in developing new strategies, technologies, products, and business models, sharing the successes and lessons learned.
All right, so now comes to our moderators. This panel will be moderated by Mr. Wes Nichols, a board partner at Upfront Ventures, one of California's largest venture capital firms, and an active technology investor and advisor. Mr. Nichols is a serial entrepreneur and an industry authority in predictive analytics, AI and machine learning, and technology. Most recently, he was the chief strategy officer at Neustar, the leading company in authenticated identity for marketing and security. Neustar acquired his company, MarketShare, where he was co-founder and CEO for nearly $500 million, backed by FTV Capital, Ideation Partners, and Silver Lake, the world's largest technology investor. So now, everybody, let's give it up for our distinguished moderator and panelists.
Thank you. I think it's an exciting topic. What we're here to talk about innovation. We're here to talk about what's happening in China. I was just there for 2 weeks and meeting some very interesting companies, and it's a fantastic panel today. And we've got between healthcare, and by the way, we did not intentionally sit boy girl, but it worked out pretty nicely. But you know, from healthcare to cloud computing to telecom to hardware, we've got a very nice representative set that Lucy and team has assembled here. So maybe we go down the line and do introductions, talk about your company and what you're doing, and maybe just one thought around innovation, what you're seeing in innovation in your industry. That might be a good place to start. Would you mind starting, Wei?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Yiwen Li. Like most of you here, not US, I was made in China. I come from a small city with 8 million people by the name of Wuhan in the middle of China. Currently, I'm with NetHealth. NetHealth is a healthcare company utilizing the latest big data technology in healthcare, as well as genomic and genetic profiling technologies to revolutionize healthcare and make cancer a curable disease. Prior to NetHealth, I worked in finance for 7 years, worked at Capital Group here, headquartered in Los Angeles, went to school in Beijing, Vienna, London, always loved to be in university. I live next to Caltech and very honored to be part of brewing community today. Innovation in healthcare. I think one of the biggest trends that I see is application of genomic and genetic profiling in precision medicine and precision wellness.
For personalized medicine and personalized care.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I would like to do a little survey. How many people here have heard about precision medicine or personalized medicine? Raise your hand.
Oh.
So, more than half of people, it has become a buzzword. Maybe many of you know that in 2014, Obama launched a precision medicine initiative and budgeted more than $250 million for research.
That's just been canceled.
It's just kidding. I hope we already used that money.
I know, you used it, good.
And 1 year later, China announced personalized medicine initiative and budgeted for $9 billion, just to show who's the boss. So there has been already a lot of capital and research in this area. What this is to design your treatment plan specifically based on your unique genetic makeup and genomic profiling. Not only this is happening in cancer treatment, in chronic diseases, but also in wellness, which is really interesting area. There are companies in China and in US that is doing barcode swap genomic testing and doing report on what is your optimal nutrition diet, what's your optimal exercise routines can make you lose weight the fastest, and what type of skin product is best for you, all based on genomic profiling. So I think both in disease treatment as well as in wellness, we see that personalized trends go in.
Great. You'll be happy to know I just got my full DNA workup and results yesterday morning. So we'll talk offline. So you can help me with that skincare treatment. So, Kay, thank you very much, Kay.
Thank you.
Yeah, my turn. I work for Alibaba Cloud. Actually, I think our name Alibaba, you already saw that in the last session. I think talking about the acquisition from Alibaba. Basically, I think for myself, I worked in Beijing for more than 20 years, and 4 years ago I moved to the United States. So later I joined Alibaba. In the past, I worked for Hewlett Packard, Oracle. I'm the chief architect of Oracle China, and later I run the startup with my classmate in China. Then later, after move to US, I restart my career. So I joined Huawei for the big data team lead, and also later I joined Alibaba. Now I'm in charge of the Alibaba Cloud Solution Architecture team. If we are talking about the innovation from Alibaba Group, I think we cover many aspects. Basically, I think the most important thing, we try to change the behavior of commerce in China. You know, in every countryside, in every village, now they can do e-commerce. I think that's one of the biggest contributions from Alibaba. We are not only invent the technology side, but we leverage the technology to change the lifestyle of every people who have no any knowledge with the technology side. That's one side. And based on the e-commerce, we try to build the finance system. I think the transaction doesn't really matter. The most important thing is we try to build the credit system for the whole China. I think that's the most important contribution for the society. Yeah, you know, in China, it's not here, like here, we have the many credit system, it's well established, but in China, because of the past many years, the past decades, we are not well established the credit system, but based on our commerce system, based on our media industry, many aspects acquired by Alibaba Group. Currently, nowadays, we can build the credit system. I think that this will fundamentally change the people relationship. And for the other side about the innovation, I work for the Alibaba Cloud. You know, I can give you an example. One of my customers leverage our cloud, maybe just yesterday actually. They try to launch 200K jobs on top of our cloud. For each job, it requires 16 core CPU. So basically, the mass available computing resource can enable something you never think about in before. So what they are doing, they try to predict the drug structure. So they try to lower the cost of drug industry. So I think that this kind of computing technology will change the industry quite a lot. I think that's my understanding.
Great, thank you. Yeah?
Okay, so you know what? How can be online shopping or how can be e-commerce happen? You need network, right? No matter wireless or fixed line. We are the network operator. We are China Telecom. So to us, I mean, to a company like a telecommunication company, innovation is like a lifeline. So all the business, all the network, and all the service are driven by technology innovation. So we have experience for years from the very first stage of analog, then digital, then IP, and then most recently, we are going to embrace the software-defined network. So basically, innovation of technology is the DNA of a telecommunication company. And to us, innovation is more than technology. It's also about business model. So China Telecom Americas have been in this market for this is our 17 years. Back to 2000, when we first came here, we just have a team of 3 people. One for sales, one for network, and another one for admin. That's it. In 17 years past, we have a team 200 in North America, and we have office in Brazil. We have office in Canada. We run business here in the revenue scale of more than 500 million US dollar. So the business model changed pretty a lot. When we set up our first POP in the United States, that's the major purpose is to save cost. You could not imagine at that time, China, in terms of internet connection, is still in a weak position to the United States. We will have to pay to get the connection with the major US IP networks like AT&T, like Verizon. But today, we can pair with them. So today, the business model changed, and the way we do business changed. Okay, so lastly come to myself. My name is EU. I'm in charge of network operation and wholesale business in China Telecom Americas. I'm based in Los Angeles, and welcome you guys if you have a chance to go to downtown to visit our office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Alibaba built the cloud, and China Telecom built a network, but everything has to run on a smartphone, right? I'm coming from the smartphone company called Coolpad. So Coolpad may not be the well-known name here in US because we're come to this market very late, 5 years now. But back to China, actually, we were in China market for 23 years. In the last 15 years, actually, we focused on one thing, to make the smartphone, to make the best smartphone for the consumers. So we probably launched our smartphone much earlier than Apple, but unfortunately, actually, we did not become the Chinese Apple today. But we still be very proud about the technology and innovation, because a lot of people are saying the smartphone has become a very saturated industry, very old industry. But actually, I'm not on that. Agree that a statement, because this industry actually, I was very fascinated by this industry because it has been keep on innovating. Just think about 20 years ago, we used the feature phone, keypad phone, but 10 years ago, Apple launched the first touch, the smartphones, right? So who knows what's the next, right? After 10 years, 20 years, is the current form factor of smartphones still exist? We don't know, right? But the basic functionality, the function of the smartphone still exists, right, for people's daily life. So for myself, actually, working in this industry, telecom industry, for over 15 years, over the different market from India, South Asia, Turkey, France, Germany, and all over Europe. I was moved to US 3 years ago. So I would like to share my views and thoughts on the telecommunication sector as well as innovation in this business. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's nice because I think what we have here are 3 examples of companies that, 4 examples of companies I think are very innovative, and I think 3 from a China perspective. It's not necessarily been in the DNA of the country, which has been more manufacturing oriented, other than I think these companies, but I think that it's something that we've seen a change a lot. And we were talking earlier today about the cultural differences between the US and China, and is one better suited for entrepreneurship and innovation inside of a company or not? And I know you had some interesting thoughts, if you don't mind, since you I'm the only one. I have the most boring name up here, and but I'm the only one who hasn't lived in China. So I'd love to get your perspective.
Sure. I think that's a really interesting question because innovation is about culture, and there are I think there are similarities and differences in the Chinese and American culture. I think one of the biggest difference is China was at least, and is still about harmony. You have to be similar to other people. If you look at 5,000-year China history, if you're being indifferent, you expose yourself to big risk. And that type of thinking is disastrous for innovation because you have to think out of the box, you have to think differently. And I think Chinese culture is also not big on taking risk. We're talking about 中庸, which is the middle way. You're kind of not the best, not the worst. You're in the safe zone. And that is the middle path. And that is also contradictory from innovation. Whereas I think in America, the culture is more focused on being indifferent, being in you culture, me culture, rather than us culture.
Yeah, just go down to Venice Beach.
Right.
You'll see that firsthand.
Or kind of weirdos. But, but if you go to Silicon Valley, I don't know whether anyone watched the HBO show Silicon Valley. Is one of my favorite shows. I'm fascinated by it. And I live next to Caltech. And those are geniuses there, but their social skill is like here. Yes. And so they're weird, but they're so different. But sometimes you look at Steve Jobs, you look at the founder of Google, they are different. You know that they are not your middle way person, and they dare to be different. And I think that's what make America is still, I personally believe, the most innovative country in the world, because people dare to be different. They are daring to take risk. They don't dare to make mistakes. If you think about other Asian cultures like Japanese culture, if you make a mistake in Japan, I lived in Tokyo for a year, still people are very polite. People want to make one thing perfect. Instead of making revolution, they make small steps to make one thing perfect. And if you think about the reason why, it's because in the history of Japan, if you are a ninja and you made a mistake, you have to kill yourself, right? So that kind of culture where you make a mistake and you have to kill yourself, that definitely doesn't make a Silicon Valley. So I think
that happens at Foxconn, though. Sorry, I had to say it.
I know you live in China.
Yeah, I know.
That's the evidence.
No, I think it's a really good point, and I've spent a lot of time in Japan too, and I think that's part of the reason why Samsung's making Sony televisions. You know, that right. You see, you know, in many ways, safety was beat by risk-taking and innovation, and as a result, Korea and China have just now dominated and forever. It is not going back, in my opinion. And so no, I think that's a really interesting observation. But you look at like Jack Ma. You know, I've met Jack a few times, and he doesn't strike me as the guy who takes the middle path. So you know, but how do you see more of that type of a personality emerging in China? Is there part of it has to do with incentives? Like, are the incentives and the risk and reward in a place that allows for innovation to flourish? Some companies are great at it, and some are horrible at it. Some countries are great, and some countries are not. So, I'd love to, if you guys have other thoughts. We don't have to go down the line and answer every single question, but just love to get your thoughts on that if you've got something to contribute.
Yeah, actually, I think about the innovation is something. The fundamental thing is about the risk taking. So in the past, you know, in China, for example, in my age, at that time, you cannot risk yourself too much, because the next day when you're thinking about the food, you have no time to think about the innovation. But nowadays, you can find for the age, for the person, maybe just like most students sit here, you don't afraid of that. You have your future. Even you lost your job, then whatever will happen next day, You don't really care about whether you will be live in the street or not, because you have some fundamental thing to support you. So I think that will fundamentally change the innovation in China. Right now, with the new generation come into the stage and the older generation fade out, basically, I think the innovation in China become very, very popular, I feel. When I run the start, many ideas from the young people, I think, surprise us. And also, in the past, there are knowledge gap between the Western world and the China world, because the education system was well established 100 years ago at Europe. I would say it's not here, it's Europe, from Europe. But recent days, I think the education system, the knowledge transfer is so quick. Maybe the knowledge gap just 12 hours. What happened here tonight, then they get it tomorrow morning. I think that's the only gap. So I think right now is the tipping point for China society to innovate things. They have the foundation, they have the knowledge, and they can take the risk. I think it will change very, very quick. So it will be something, the exponential curve for the next 10 years, I think.
So there's been encouragement for mass entrepreneurship, which is hard to force on people. But also in companies, innovation. I think any company that has a innovation department is a very, it's a company that will be out of business in 5 years. I don't think that's something that you can just create a team to try to create without the rest of the company doing it. I look at telecom and the mobile and the handset business, and how do you create a culture of innovation? How do you, that is a fast-moving, it has to be a rapidly moving business. Think about 5G and what's happening and the innovation that can bring. How do you create a culture of people wanting to go to the next level all the time? Do they feel safe to develop new ideas? Do they feel, like they won't be fired if they come up with way out of the box ideas? How does that work at China Telecom or Coolpad?
You want to say something?
You go first.
Oh, yeah. Basically, I'm thinking in the other way. Actually, there was always an observation that the innovation in China actually is mostly focused on the micro innovation and business model innovation. I think that partially it is true, especially in the last 10 years, right? So we learn from US, learn from the Western countries. But I think it's going to be changed. To better. Chinese companies or China actually has more original technology innovation, right? So I think the fundamental reason behind that might be the different thinking, way of thinking between the Chinese people and the US people or the Western people. Because I have observed based with a lot of colleagues when I worked in Europe and here, basically the way they were taught to think actually is more on a logical way, right? Not directly to the result, but in China, basically, we were taught more like result-oriented, result-driven, right? So to resolve one thing, you have 10 steps. So what Chinese people always think is, why don't we jump from step 1 to step 10? So that solves the problem. But in the US or in the Western countries, basically the people were taught no, you cannot go that way. You have to go through 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Let's say step by step, and then finally you solve the problem. So I think that is a fundamental thing to, very important for the original technology innovation. So I think we have learned a lot from the US, from the Western countries. I think Chinese education and way of thinking of Chinese people are really changing nowadays. You see a lot of the original technologies are invented by Chinese company and people. So, and basically in our company, we actually very encourage people to think always outside the box, right? So like Coolpad US, we have a small team, like 15 people, but everybody can speak out. They think it's right? Right. And we really learn between the Chinese colleagues and the US colleagues. So we both work together. And to be honest, we learn a lot this logical thinking way instead of the result-driven thinking way.
That makes a big difference to people feel safe
Yeah.
to be able to contribute. You have an interesting perspective because you used to live in Europe. I think that personally, I think Europe has fallen behind on the innovation curve
Yeah.
because of maybe regulation has been too stiff.
Yeah.
I've met 3 companies in the past month that have moved from Europe to Los Angeles. I mean, startups that have picked up their whole teams and moved to California because they felt like they were having trouble with regulation, with innovation, finding talent. It's too expensive to operate. Did you see any that kind of dynamic as well?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying, that why we see the trend, that was moving, the Western country, Europe and US used to be very free, right? Free to say, free to think, and free to do anything, right? But less regulatory. But in China, it used to be very, very, very much regulated, right? A lot of strict policy and the less flexibility. But nowadays, actually, we learn from the Western countries, US, actually, the trend has changed. A lot of things have been much more free in China than in US and in Western countries. I think that encourages a lot of the innovation happening.
I agree with that too. I was recently, I sent you the report. I was recently reading a innovation startup report that when I think about innovation, I rather think about city rather than country or region. Right? So the number 1 innovative city in the world is still Silicon Valley, and I think it's very hard to take over that, especially when they have a killer series on HBO. And number 2 is
and an ecosystem of
of
talent and money
absolutely.
and relationships.
The existing ecosystem, and I think innovation is to create that ecosystem. So number 2 is New York, and guess what? Number 3 and 4, to my surprise, actually, is Beijing and Shanghai. Because I was thinking, wow, those are, we're from China, but it's very polluted. Like, a lot of Silicon Valley people are moving to LA because of the sunshine. But despite of that kind of tough environmental factors, I think it's because, exactly to Brandon, to your point, that Chinese government is putting a lot of money. So there is capital in China. There are a lot of grassroots original ideas that is independently from the government created. Instead of made in China, I think people now start to say created in China.
Created in China,
yeah. Instead of copycat and micro innovation, now we're seeing some real innovations coming out from China that is probably even leapfrog compared to here. WeChat is a big example, is a good example.
I think the trains and transportation too. I did the train from Beijing to Shanghai.
High-speed rail.
Unbelievable.
High-speed
The experience of that, and I think that's all an example of leapfrog innovation.
And I believe, other than that, there is one most critical part which will drive innovation: market. China is a big market.
Exactly.
So that's the most important incentive to innovation. Other than that, other than the big market, the 3 most critical factors for innovation is talent. You need to have brilliant brains to work out the brilliant ideas, right? And the third one is money. You need money to do innovation. The last one is a mechanism. So I believe from this perspective, there is a lot of room for China to still to improve, even though I agree with Brandy that China currently is full of the atmosphere of entrepreneurship. So you guys just touch base of another topic, which is about the regulation or some concerns of the government. I believe that each government will have concern related to security. Especially today, we are living in internet society, internet world. Especially to telecommunication, that security is really crucial to the not only to this industry. You know that telecommunication is about the if we talk big, it's about national security. If we talk small, it's about the daily life of everyone. So it's understandable for that. But still, I believe that government should still hold a very open attitude toward regulation. My suggestion to the government is that the government it's better for them to set the rule clear, transparent, simple, and as fair as possible. Then just let the operator, let the service provider, let them dance.
Right. Well, and then the Internet of Things adds even more complexity, because then you think about Target in America a few years ago with the security breach. That was actually caused by a sensor inside of the heating and air conditioning systems that was put in by a vendor, which then connected to the point of sale, which then led to the credit card breach. With all these connected devices, security and authentication and things like that are becoming more and more important. But there's also the other piece of security, which is intellectual property, espionage, things like that I think are always a concern between countries, and that must make it very hard. I know that's a big problem with cloud computing. That's a concern with telecom and with mobile devices, and is less so with personalized medicine probably. But but are there? How do you deal with that? I mean, how do we get over that in terms of trade, in terms of cooperative innovation development between countries if there's concern about security risks? It's something you probably deal with Coolpads.
Yeah, actually, we do have this the challenges, right? So I think there's common challenge between the Chinese company coming to U.S. and U.S. company coming to China. I think they both are facing this, or I would say, instead of political environment challenge, basically is a trade policy challenge, right? There's each of the administration has a different policy that might impact the business.
Yeah,
right?
I'd say.
Operation. For example, current administration might, might potentially impose the tax, the taxation to the Chinese exporting goods, right? So that's going to essentially affect our business, especially in a manufacturing business.
Because things get too expensive to come in. Yes.
Get too expensive. And the other one is like, you mentioned in the national security issue, we're in the telecom, the communication sector, there was always national security concerns by the government, right? Saying we are trying to steal the information from the end users, and we potentially is going to breach the network here. That actually caused a lot of the concerns and challenges to us, especially in this business sector operating in U.S.
Is there anything to change that, or is it is what it is?
I think still there. It is always there, right? But I think what we're trying to do is try to as much as possible to apply to follow the local rules and laws, right? And do whatever government need us to do, right? So I think that's the best way to operate a business here.
And I think transparency plays a role in that too.
But I have a little bit different idea about that. Basically, that's something when we're talking about IP, it's highly in contact with the industry. For our industry, basically, for example, for Alibaba, the innovation, the idea come from the business, not come from the school, not come from UCLA. Yeah, basically, because the education system here is so well established, so many innovation actually is come from school. But in China, the fundamental innovation come from the real world, from the industry. For example, when we talking about the processing the data, we are talking about the data technology. We are talking about the next generation is the data year. But for this kind of technology, actually, we have nowhere to learn, to copy, because...
So you are the one to create...
Yeah, we have to create something never happened before. Because in the United States, in the Europe, you just don't have the scale.
Yeah, true.
You don't have the population. For example, we have 500 million mobile subscribers. So how to deal with this kind of data? It never happened before. So we have to invent by ourselves. So in that sense, for the IP, for this kind of things, there's nowhere to copy. And also from the other side, when we're talking about the security, especially for the data security, for Alibaba, we can handle 100 petabyte data per day to analyze the user behavior, to get the intelligence about the market. So for the customer, we are running the public cloud service. Many customers run their system on top of us. For their data, for us, the value to us is just kind of a waste of time if we try to pick into that kind of data. We have well structured many business units to understand the consumer much better than anyone else. So there is no any intention to think about the others' data. So on the other side, from technology, pure technology side, nowadays the technology totally changed the structure, we process data, we store the data. For example, if some bad guy from our internal, for example, some people try to steal some data, because for any large organization, they will risk this kind of problem, because when you have 1,000 people, you will never know who is hate your company for whatever the reason. So there is kind of a risk. But for us, even the stolen 10 sticks, it means nothing. Because when we store the data will be spent with on top of hundreds or even thousands data disks. So single disk, 10 disks, 100 disks means nothing.
So you've had to, due to scale, you were forced to innovate.
Yes.
Because of the success, which is an interesting observation.
Actually, the big scale is the driving force for innovation.
Yeah.
And I believe there is a lot of very impressive initiative. I won't say it's a technological innovation, but still, it's a kind of a business model innovation, like a mobile payment. You know what? Last year, the total scale of a mobile payment of China is 50 times of that of America.
Yeah.
That's a huge, achievement. Even though some people say that in China, because of say China is not that a developed country, so Chinese people are not that used to use credit card, so that drive mobile payment develop very fast in China. But still, that's a big achievement, right? Chinese people just jump directly from the daily consumption of cash directly to mobile payment. Yeah, that's a big achievement.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like the skip over landline phones straight to mobile.
Yeah. China, in this sense, China really enjoying the kind of say late mover advantage.
Right. And do you see India as the next market for bringing this sort of thinking? Yeah. For Chinese companies? Similar.
Yeah. I think India has potential. Yeah. I would like to add something based on this topic. Basically, how to have this collaboration between U.S. company and U.S. technology company and Chinese technology company. Instead of being afraid of stealing the IPs, technologies, why don't we work together, right? So basically, each one has its own advantage, right? We have the production and manufacture and market advantage, and you have technology advantage, right? So both countries work together actually can makes a business scale and can really globalize the technology through the secured production and the market. So I think that is the way how we can work together.
So the opportunity to co-invest. Maybe, financially co-invest in startups might be a way to neutralize some of those, or at least align interests. In the time remaining, are there companies that you've come across, either in the U.S. or China, that you look at and you think that's the most innovative thing I've seen in a long time? Is there anything that any companies that you feel like, wow, that's a big jump, that's true innovation as opposed to incremental innovation? And you're probably seeing the most of it in healthcare. I mean, some of the things happening in personalized medicine is like we've never seen before.
Right. So actually, I think to your point, the Chinese big market, mass market, and competition give birth to certain advantage in certain industry, like e-commerce, like consumer-facing product. I think the big market give birth to a better, superior user experience, UX, UI, in financial sectors, in all kind of consumer-facing sectors. I think I'm a huge fan of WeChat. I think WeChat is a combination of WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Uber, PayPal, everything you can think of. The other company that I'm really personally impressed of is, I don't know, I think guys won't know about that company. It's called Meet You, Meiyou. What it does, I'm a little embarrassed to say, it's recording your menstruation cycle. You know, it's very important for women because you get messed up if you don't get that right. And it's very important to track that. And I used to use American
for men
application.
To know. For men too to know.
For men too as well, I'm sure. I used to track that using an application called P-Track. It's basically like a diary. You just put that on your calendar. But what Meet You is enabled to do is not only tracking that, it gives you reminders, it gives you suggestions, what you should do, what you should pay attention to. And then it becomes an e-commerce company. It sells you all the things you need during your cycle or outside your cycle.
Chocolate is a big one.
Everything, and also become a social network.
Yeah.
All the women during that special days, they bitch about their boyfriends together. So I think that type of consumer innovation, user experience innovation is amazing.
Have you come across anything that you're excited about?
For this part, I think basically I believe the new generation computing technology, because I come from the cloud part, so I always talking about the computing, will reshape the traditional industry. For example, you mentioned about the genomic. In the past, when we try to build the whole genome, it takes 10 years. I think it's 10 years.
Yeah.
But right now, maybe just one day, we can do that. And for the analytic part, based on the computing technology, maybe we can handle 1,000 people's genomic analysis within 24 hours. And also, for the drug industry, actually I have a customer, just I mentioned, the computing power will dramatically change the old way to innovation to discover the drug. In the past, to discover one new drug, it takes at least 8 years to 10 years. But I believe in the new generation, I think maybe 1 year, 2 years is possible. So it will change things. And in China, China is the biggest manufacturer country. But basically, we already met many customers. They try to leverage the big data technology to improve their production quality, to increase the speed, to reduce the cost. That's something happened today. So when we combine the computing with the traditional industry, it will generate many, many new opportunities. I think the opportunity is there.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah?
Okay, so if the question is that the most personally most admired technology or innovation company to me, my answer is simple: Huawei. I really admire this company. The reason is also simple. The secret of the success of Huawei is just innovation.
Innovation on the product, innovation on technology.
Innovation of everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
Innovation of
actually, I would like
product, service, and service, and even the way they are doing business. Yeah.
And which company was that? I couldn't hear.
Huawei.
Huawei.
Oh, Huawei, yeah.
Actually, I would like to echo this question, your topic. I work for Huawei for a little bit more than 14 months, something around that. And at that time when I just joined Huawei, I was assigned to do some kind of strategic planning, but my personal interest isn't there. So at that time, I write some kind of big data related report, try to combine the internet technology with the traditional telecom. So you know what happened for Huawei? When I submit I think just 40-page PPT to our boss, the Huawei boss said, "Oh, it seems a good idea. Give you the money, give you the headcount. You hire the people, try to build the POC by yourself." So I set up the team, just based on my, maybe you cannot use innovative idea, but just an idea. So I think I would echo your idea. Huawei is really innovative.
Very swift, very prompt.
Yeah.
Right?
That's good. That's very important.
Yeah.
Okay, and lastly, Brandy, I'd love to get your thoughts on that too. And
Yeah, actually, in this industry, as I mentioned, this keep on innovation actually is a fundamental success element for this industry. So we're thinking actually not only doing the micro innovation like we did before, like dual SIM card, dual standby, and dual space, now dual screen phones we're going to launch in the market, but also we actually are thinking what is the next for the smartphone, right? As I talk to the students here, basically, I mean, the smartphone, the form factor of the current smartphone may survive for next 20, 13 years, right? After 20, 30 years, this form factor might disappear completely. So, but during these 20 and 13 years, what are the focus of this industry? I believe is artificial intelligence, AI. Because today the smartphone actually is not that smart, right? So basically it's just a one-way communication between the human and smartphone. It takes the instruction from the human, right? And do whatever you want it to do. But actually, I think the better thing is to have the two-way communication. I mean, you give the instruction and he give you a response, and even it can learn from the human, from the owner of the phone, right? So what do you prefer, what do you like? So the artificial intelligence really is going to drive this industry to the next step. So actually, I mean, not only me, my company actually really are interested and focusing on what are the innovation technology in this artificial intelligence and how to bring this technology into the smartphone and to drive our smartphone much more, I mean, better user experience and more competitive in the market. So in that content, I would say I admire the company like Google, like Amazon. They really invest on the artificial intelligence, and I think that might be the future for the say smart device future. Yeah,
totally agree. Yeah, I think you look at people like Elon Musk and things that, I mean, his idea of merging technology with brains. So you know, that's happening. The ability to type while thinking. You know, that those things are in development just by thinking are in development. The one thing that we invested in that I'm very excited is called U-Beam, which is the ability to charge electronic devices wirelessly through sound waves. And you know, so there's a lot of exciting things happening, and both in the U.S. and China. And I really wanted to thank you all very much for your contributions, your thinking. I think it was an interesting discussion about what makes for innovation, what's the differences between the countries, how we can actually work it in better and more productive harmony. And hopefully we come back next year and revisit the topic. So
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.